Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, joined by attorney Rachel Alters, and we're going to talk about knee disorders and long-term disability insurance claims. And knee disorders is a claim that is often challenged a lot by disability insurance companies because the disability companies are of the opinion that if you have a sedentary job, which is basically like a desk type related job or a job that requires you to sit for at least 6 out of 8 hours a day, then you should be able to do your job because you shouldn't be having knee problems if you can sit all day. And Rachel, you know that's not the case in how you present these claims, and that people who have knee disorders, even though they have a sedentary job, still can't do their job. So how do you get around this common argument that you get from the disability insurance company that a person can't do a sedentary job because of the fact that they have a disabling knee condition?
Well, Greg, it's really important to work with the treating physicians in the way they document the restrictions and limitations so that when the carrier obtains the medical records, they can see that the doctor is not saying, okay, as long as the claimant isn't standing for long periods or walking or lifting heavy objects, it's okay for them to work. Because a lot of times when somebody has a severe knee condition, whether it's caused by severe rheumatoid arthritis or if they have a chronic condition, another chronic condition that requires them to have, whether it's knee surgery or just requires them not to stand for long periods, it's important that the treating physician states in the medical records that the claimant can't sit for long periods and needs to change positions often. And oftentimes I find with my clients who have severe knee issues, they need to elevate their legs throughout the day, but in different positions. They need to lie down. It's not a matter of can they just sit all day and be okay. They're really uncomfortable. And when a knee is in pain, it gets inflamed, it gets swollen, it's uncomfortable. And if somebody's in pain, whether or not they're sitting at a desk all day doesn't make them be able to focus and concentrate on their job when they're in severe pain. So what I do is I tell my clients, we have to tell their treating physicians to make sure they're documenting that they're only able to sit in small increments of time. They cannot sit for extended periods. They must elevate the leg, keep it up during the day and change positions, walk around, because most jobs aren't going to allow somebody to lie down when they're supposed to be sitting at a desk using a computer all day. And it's very difficult to use a computer while your leg is elevated in the air. So it really makes it impossible with somebody for a knee condition to be able to work in a sedentary capacity on a full-time basis.
And Rachel, how important is the documentation of the medical records by the treating doctor, and also for the claimant to exhaust all of the available treatment remedies for a knee condition?
It's very important for the doctor to document as much as they possibly can in the medical records, because if there isn't documentation that's showing the pain that the claimant is in, the range of motion issues, whether the knee is swelling, whether there are other issues he's having with the knees, it has to all be documented in the records and on a consistent basis. So oftentimes my clients will say to me, well, I went to the doctor, 4 months ago, I had knee surgery, and he says there's nothing else he can do for me, so I'm not going to go back. And I said, no, that's the number one mistake that my clients make, is that the doctors will say, there's nothing more to do for the knee. You're going to be in this as a chronic condition. You're going to be in this pain probably ongoing into the future, and you're going to have to deal with it. So they no longer go see the doctor. Well, the insurance carrier takes the mere fact that you stop seeing the doctor as their cue that you're all cured, you're all better, you can go back to work, and you have absolutely no issues with the knee anymore. So what I tell my clients is make sure that you go see your doctor at least every 3 months. Make sure you're telling them every issue that you're having with your knee. If it's in pain while you're sitting in one position and it only feels better when it's elevated, you need to tell the doctor that this is the issue. I have clients who have issues sitting in 15 minutes in a chair. Their knee starts to throb. If they had to do some sort of job where they needed to focus and concentrate, they wouldn't be able to. So they need to tell their doctors, I can't concentrate for long periods due to my pain. And then if I take a pain medication, which can alleviate the pain, they can't focus because it causes side effects. such as fatigue, drowsiness, then they need to lay down and take a nap. So it's kind of a catch-22. So it all needs to be in the medical records. The doctors need to document the fact that they cannot sit for long periods, therefore cannot work in a full-time capacity due to the knee issue.
Rachel, I know a lot of your clients call you, or potential clients call and say, look, I have an orthopedic doctor or I have a pain management doctor for my knee. I've been treating for years. My primary care doctor, they all support my condition, that it's limiting my ability to work. Can you explain to me, the claimant will say, how is this disability company going to challenge my 2 or 3 doctors who support my claim so that they don't have to pay me?
They can do this in many ways. The most inexpensive way for the disability company to challenge your doctor's opinions about your restrictions and limitations is to hire their own peer review doctors to review your medical records, look over them and say, you know what, we disagree. We've looked at the test results, we've looked at the medical records, and even though the claimant's doctors say that, they believe that the restrictions and limitations prevent them from being able to work in their occupation due to their issues with the knee, our orthopedic doctor who reviewed the records states that they disagree, that this claimant can sit for 6 to 8 hours a day during an 8-hour period with no problems whatsoever, can bend, stoop, all the stuff that's required in a sedentary job with absolutely no problem. And my clients will say to me, well, how is it that they can do that when they haven't examined me? They've never met me. They've never even talked to my doctors. They can just, look at my medical records and render their own medical opinion, which will trump my treating doctor's opinion. And the answer to that question, unfortunately, is yes. The insurance companies routinely do this. They will send peer review reports to us and with a denial letter stating that our doctors disagree with the treating doctors. Therefore, we're cutting off the benefit. Another way is they can send the claimant for an independent medical evaluation. This is a little more costly for the insurance company, depending on the value of the benefit. Usually, if somebody has a little higher benefit, they will go and send them for an independent medical evaluation to one of their doctors who obviously are biased. They're being hired by the insurance companies. The companies are paying the doctor to render opinions. So I always tell my clients, most often than not, when you go to an IME, the opinion's more likely going to be that you could go back to work full-time in a sedentary capacity, because if these doctors were rendering opinions all the time, once they're hired by insurance companies that state that you're disabled, they would no longer get hired by the insurance companies. So they're biased. I do make sure that I will very, very carefully prepare my clients for an independent medical examination to make sure that they know what to say, what not to say. And most importantly, they're usually followed with surveillance on the way to the medical exam, walking into the independent medical exam. This gives the insurance company an opportunity to know where the client's going to be at that particular time. So they get them on video. So I always try and prepare my client to tell them, just be very mindful that you're being watched. And after the evaluation, make sure you go home. When you're sitting in the lobby, make sure that you aren't sitting there for 2 hours without, changing positions, because if you do that, that also gets held against you. So there's many ways in which the insurance carrier can rebuke what your physicians are telling them.
And Rachel, a lot of people also come and say, look, I've had this chronic knee condition for a while. I've tried to work through it. I've done everything I can. Doctors recommended a knee replacement or a different type of surgery. I'm really scared. I don't want to undergo that. Do I have to have the surgery in order to get my benefits approved?
Right, and an insurance carrier can never make a claimant undergo surgery. That's not something that's in the policy. However, they can try and hold it against you if you don't follow the doctor's recommendations. So I've seen it go both ways, where my clients are really afraid to have surgery. The insurance carrier is not going to require the surgery, but oftentimes they will say, well, the surgery was recommended, the claimant failed to undergo the surgery, therefore we're not going to continue to pay benefits. And that's when we jump in and we fight the claim, because it's not something that they can force somebody to do, because there's no surgery that is 100%, 100% going to work and guaranteed that after a surgery that you're going to be back to yourself. I mean, there's so many risks when it comes to operating, whether it's a knee or an elbow or a back or a neck. There's always risks involved, and it's a risk-benefit analysis. So if the physician can't guarantee, which they never can, that after the surgery they're going to be good to go, there's no real requirement that they undergo the surgery under the terms of the policy.
And the last tip I want to give for people, and a tool that I know you've used many times, Rachel, is what's known as a functional capacity exam. Can you explain how you've used that type of testing to help prove that your claimant has functional restrictions and limitations as a result of their knee disorder?
Absolutely. So there's something, it's called a functional capacity evaluation, and this is a test that we often use to give objective proof of somebody's inability to, function and perform a sedentary job 40 hours a week. And what it does is it's performed by a physical therapist, and it's oftentimes a 3 to 4 hour evaluation that's going to test your ability to sit for long periods, how long you can stand, how much weight you can carry, if you can bend, stoop, climb a ladder. It's all the physical functions that can be required in any typical work day. And this is measured with, it's a computer measurement, and then the physical therapist will interpret the data to determine, as, in their opinion, whether they believe that you could sit for long periods, stand for long enough, lift enough to be able to perform a sedentary job. And oftentimes these are very useful tools in proving to the insurance company that absolutely there is no way that this claimant could do a sedentary job 40 hours a week with the condition that they have with their knee.
So, in summary, Rachel, we've talked about a lot of good tips for people who have knee conditions, and what we do is we work very closely with the claimant, with their doctors, with other types of objective testing that can be obtained, especially with functional capacity testing. We take into consideration, which we didn't talk about in this video, is the occupational duties. And it's a complete package. You have to take all of the restrictions and limitations from the medical records, and you have to correlate that with the duties of the claimant's occupation at the time they became disabled, or if the definition of disability is any gainful occupation. And often we'll even take it a step further and retain a vocational expert who will then coordinate everything dealing with the occupational component and the physical component as well. And so you have to know how to present this complete package to the disability insurance company, especially if your claim's been denied, so that you can get your benefits approved. What we often like to do with our clients, and we encourage you to do, is to contact us for a free initial consultation where Rachel, myself, or any of our lawyers will review your disability insurance policy, or if you've been denied, we'll need to review a copy of your denial letter. And after that review, which is done via telephone, we'll let you know immediately how we can assist you. Our clients are located all over the country, so no matter where you live, we're available to assist you. The other very valuable resource that we can offer you is that we encourage you to search through our website and to look up information based upon your disability insurance company, your medical condition, or your occupation. And what you're going to find is you're going to find articles that we've summarized about cases we've handled or other lawsuits that have been filed. You're going to find reviews about your insurance company where other people share their experiences, which may be similar to yours. You're also going to find questions and answers that all our lawyers have answered. There's thousands of them that we've answered already. And we want you to have all this information because it's going to educate you about this disability insurance process, which I assure you is a complicated process and a bit of gamemanship in which you have to know how the disability insurance company thinks in order to put yourself in the best position to get approved. So after reviewing this information and having the opportunity to speak with us, I hope that you feel that you're in a better position to either get your benefits approved or continue your benefits. And should you need us in the future, we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you.